Hello ladies and gentlemen, Andy here again, as infrequent as ever. I often talk about how impressed I am with the Assetto Corsa modding scene for obvious reasons, and even though I'm not following the scene very closely these days, some mods for some reason just appears before me. And that's the case with today's mod, which is the Isotta Fraschini Tipo 6 LMH. And of course I'm going to talk about it. There is no alternate universe where I'm not going to talk about this fantastic privateer Le Mans hypercar, and that's because I've been a long watcher of Le Mans, and privateer teams, although not favorites to win anything, are some of the most interesting teams and cars. Because you never know where they stand. They could be almost up there with the LMP1s when that was a thing, but they could also be so shit they can't even compete with the LMP2s. And there is something extremely respectable about building your own car, whether it be good or a complete shitbox, just to compete at Le Mans. And although those of you who have come in with the hypercars have only seen two cars before the Isotta Fraschini, the Glickenhaus, which varied greatly in performance, and the Vanwall, who were very stable in not completing races, that's cheap shot, but not entirely wrong. But it doesn't matter to me. Vanwall on the track was still respectable as hell in my eyes, and I'd rather see them on track being bad than not to have a privateer at all, because there is something incredibly special about them. There always has been, and it would be a sad day if they disappeared. And yes, I do realize that Jota, Proton and AF Corsa are private teams, but they have cars built by factory teams. I still have massive respect for these teams too, don't get me wrong, but for me there's just something special about these crazy people who build their own cars to compete. But that's a long tangent for what is supposed to be a video about an Assetto Corsa mod, but I wanted to bring in both Vanwall and Glickenhaus, because even though I'm mainly focusing on the Isotta Fraschini here, since that's the only car that have not previously existed for AC, as far as I know anyway, the creators of the mod, who are Elite Racing Studio, does have the Vanwall and Glickenhaus available as well, so as for right now, this is the definitive place for World Endurance Championship privateer mods. But let's get over to the Isotta Fraschini, the World Endurance Championship's only privateer who competes in their own custom machine, and it's a great looking machine in my opinion. And before I go on another rant about their performance in kata and why that's not unexpected, let's talk about the mod. The mod looks nice. It's got all the details you'd expect from a quality mod, at least on the outside, which someone like me who likes to record their gameplay appreciates greatly. The interior is a different story, and it seemed a bit lacking, which is disappointing, as this is where most people spend their time, and it obviously takes away from the immersion of the car. The interior seemed to have low quality assets, which isn't really an issue for me, but there is also buttons missing from the wheel and console, which I just can't help but notice. So yeah, bit of a shame. The mod includes two liveries, which are both the liveries from the early photos of the car, I believe, but one looks close enough to the one used in the World Endurance Championship. Then there's a completely blue one, and it's nice that the completely blue livery is there, because then I can roleplay driving one of the track day Isotta Fraschini hypercars on a track near me, because yes, there is a track day version of the Tipo 6 and also a road car. I don't think they are available yet, but if you have way too much money, you should look into getting one of those. When it comes to sound, it's fine. I don't know how the actual Tipo 6 sounds, but it's not that important to me that it's exactly the same. There is an issue with the sound though. For whatever reason, it's extremely loud compared to other cars in Assetto Corsa, which I don't quite understand, and it's especially loud when the car's standing still as you're starting the drive. I'm not sure if it's a me issue, but I tested with a few other mods just to check, and it is really loud, so mind your ears with this one, and let me know if it's just a me issue. As usual, it took me a long time to get up to speed with this car, as I haven't been in the seat since I did the last Weird and Wonderful video, and it was a little bit of a struggle to get into. I used all my incompetence to try to make it easier for myself through the setup options, and the car feels good. It's not far off from the top LMDH mods in my opinion, and it does feel very much like how I imagine a LMDH would feel, though dialed down to the levels of where an idiot like me could handle it. But yeah, the car feels pretty manageable. The only thing I struggled to get the hang of was the brakes. I struggled to find any sort of balance, but as usual, I'm going to blame that on my Logitech pedals and not my stupid foot. But other than that, I have to say it's a good drive, and I think I spent around 2 hours just going around Imola, which was a terrible choice of track because I'm awful at it, but the hours just flew by, so it was a good time. So overall, the Isotta Fraschini Tipo 6 LMH is a really cool car that finally has gotten a mod in Assetto Corsa. The mod is pretty good and has everything you need to go way too fast around any track you may want. And with the race livery, it's a perfect car to put into your World Endurance Championship races in Assetto Corsa. How it compares to the other modding studios cars, I didn't check, but it should go well racing against the other Elite Racing Studios cars, I imagine. So definitely check out Elite Racing Studios website, I will link it in the description. All their content is free, but I would highly recommend throwing them a tip if you enjoy their content and have the ability to do so, since this is good content that probably has taken them a long time to work on. And yeah, don't forget to check out their other cars too. But that's about it. What are your thoughts on this Tipo 6 mod and Elite Racing Studios mods in general? Let me know in the comments. As always, thanks for watching and goodbye.